It's one of the most searched terms on blackenterprise.com because everybody wants to know how to get into real estate. So for our next BE Talk, open house, turning property into profit, I can still hear you guys. Please welcome the President and CEO of Frontier Development and Hospitality Group, Mr. Evans Charles.
Thank you, Kevin, for that loud clap. How we doing today? I know it's like towards the latter part of the conference or so hopefully, guys, you're still awake and you'll be attentive during these next 30 minutes. I have a lot to present within a short period of time, so I want to kind of jump right into it. Just like Alicia said, my name is Evans Charles. I'm the President and CEO of Frontier Development and Hospitality Group. We are a real estate acquisition and development company that focuses on hotels. We acquire and develop hotels in urban and secondary markets east of the Mississippi, from Maine down to Florida. We like to focus on internationally branded hotels like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, and independent hotels. Currently, we're in 6 states, and we have about a couple $100 million of total capitalization within our portfolio. So I want to talk about the evolution and how I got started. So basically, I come from humble beginnings. Single parent, Haitian descent, grew up in Washington, D.C., was growing up when it was the murder capital, big crack epidemic in the 80s. And I witnessed and saw a lot of crime and violence, and I understood that I needed to get out of that environment in order for me to just be alive and have an ability to grow. And so the one skill set that I had was I was good in athletics. So that was, for me, my way out of the neighborhood that I grew up in. And I wasn't fortunate enough to get an athletic scholarship out of high school, so I walked on to the football team at Temple University in Philadelphia. And my parents, or my mom and my grandmom and my uncles, we had probably about a year and a half worth of money to cover the delta after we got a ton of student loans, Pell Grants, et cetera, and I was faced with coming back to DC because we didn't have any more money for me to stay in school, and I knew that coming back to my own community around the friends that I grew up around was not the good move for me. So I was fortunate to beat out the starter on the football team and get a football scholarship by my junior year, and knowing that I had 3 years left, because athletes get 5 years, and I understood the value of paying for education, I got my undergrad in 4 years, and I went back on that last year, and then I got a graduate degree. I condensed a 2-year program into one, and came out at age 23 with a master's degree. So undergraduate was psychology, graduate was education, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I know I wanted to be out of the being broke business, okay? So I knew what that was like, and I got inspired by a landlord. So landlord basically owned the entire community, was speaking to me about residual income and creating wealth. Light bulb went off in my head. I go to the bookstore, I purchase a book on basically how to buy basic real estate. I knew nothing about real estate investing. So I met a mentor who was a realtor. He started driving me around West Philadelphia in low-income neighborhoods and just walking through property. I was getting an education by just listening to this guy. So eventually after looking at about 30 different properties, and I was so blessed that this guy spent that kind of time with me, found a small deal that I purchased in Overbrook section of Philadelphia. The neighborhood was selling for about $75,000. It was a VA foreclosure. I purchased it for $30,000. So I bought it. I only came out of pocket about $1,000. I used my credit card, went to Home Depot, bought a bunch of materials, and I couldn't afford to hire licensed contractors. So I went around the neighborhood, and I just recruited guys off the corner. Hey, can you paint? Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And I made it work, okay? So brought these guys in, renovated the house, put it back on the market, sold it like 6 months later. And I'm 25 years old at the time. I've never seen that kind of money in my life. It was a $25,000 check. I just reinvested that, did that over a 10-year span, did about over 70 plus deals, and then actually played the Monopoly game and traded in my 4 houses for a hotel. So I'll get into that in a second. I want to talk about the profit centers of different vehicles of turning property into profit. First one is value appreciation. If you look at historically, real estate has been one of the strongest wealth creators in our country since the beginning of our country being founded or so. Real estate values has done this. Every 10 years or so, there'll be a dip, there'll be a correction in the market, but then there's always a rebound and there's always a progression. So some people's strategy is to purchase real estate and to speculate and allow it to appreciate. For me, I want to hit all of these bullet points on every deal that I do, okay? So the next one is value add. That's really my strategy. So I want to get the appreciation, but I want to get the value add. So value add means that I want to buy something that's broken, something that needs fixing, something that has a problem. So I want the worst house on the block. I want the worst piece of real estate in the best communities. That's my strategy. I come in and I provide a solution for whatever's broken with that piece of real estate. And hopefully after I have my ARV, my after repair value, I'm about 30% below where the market is. So you know where that puts me? If something happens, market conditions that I can't control, market values go down, I still have cushion. My entire strategy is about my basis, and that just means what my all-in number is on a piece of real estate versus what the market is selling for. So value add. The next one, a lot of people don't realize this. Depreciation and the deductions and the tax benefits that you get. So this country was founded by landowners. At one point, you needed to be a landowner to even vote. So the tax laws have been implemented to benefit landowners since then and still today. There's a significant amount of tax benefits to owning real estate. So when you go out and you buy a new car and you drive it off the lot and it depreciates, it loses value. When you go out and buy a piece of real estate and you get what's called depreciation, you can still get appreciation where it's gaining in value, but from a tax standpoint, you can depreciate. And what that does is, so let's just say you make $100,000 and you're a W-2 employee, and you own some commercial real estate or residential real estate, and the depreciation you get over a period of time, let's just over a one-year period, is a negative $100,000. You know what that means? You're starting off at negative $100,000 as far as your income. That means the first $100,000 that you make is tax-free, okay? So that 35, if you tax at 35, 37%, that you have to pay your silent partner, the government, you get to keep that money when you get the depreciation, right? So, yeah, that's your silent partner, for sure. So you get deductions, right? So your interest that you pay to the bank, you know, your repairs, all of that stuff is going against your income. When I was investing in real estate, I also was in corporate America. I was working in sales for about a 10-year period, and so I was able to keep so much of my own income because I had all this real estate activity while I was a W-2 employee. Tax credits, subsidies. There's new market tax credits. There's historical tax credits. There's all kinds of subsidies that are available in different markets that are what I call profit enhancers. So for example, if it's a new market tax credit where I can, you know, get a certain percentage of the capital stack, certain percentage of my capital stack funded by new market tax credit, if I hold a property for a certain period of time, a portion of that money gets forgiven. Well, that's new equity. That's profit, the way I see it, right? A 1031 exchange. So this is one of the tax laws that is implemented to help landowners. Basically, what real estate professionals do, because if we hold real estate for more than 12 months in a day, we get taxed at a capital gains rate. So capital gains rate versus ordinary income rate, which is where most where most W-2 employees are, is probably about a 15 to 20% difference, right? So it's significantly less and it's significantly advantageous to us real estate professionals. So a 1031 exchange is basically a tax deferment strategy. And what I've learned from very sophisticated real estate professionals and tax advisors is the name of the game is to defer taxes until you're dead, okay? And never pay them while you're alive. I mean, that's, if you can structure it, I'm just telling you, that's the name of the game in this business. So a 1031 is you hold a property long-term, you sell it, you realize a gain, you take that capital gain, you reinvest it into another like-kind property, so you don't pay the taxes at that time, you just defer it, and you just keep doing that over and over and over again till you die, right? So that's one way you keep all your income and you enjoy it while you're alive. Opportunity zones, we're not gonna spend a lot of time on this, you can do a whole nother session on this. This is gonna be a game changer here. So this is basically where, unlike the 1031, you can literally sell your Apple stock, create a capital gain, put it in an opportunity zone fund, invest that money into an opportunity zone. Basically, you took your capital gain and you're not paying taxes on it yet. In the next 5 to 7 years, you're gonna get a discount on those capital gains. The new property that you put your money into, you hold it over 10 years, you pay zero. It's tax exempt. That's going to be a game changer. So that's going on right now as we speak. So that's another major profit center in real estate. So what I want to do is talk about these 3 different case studies. So my first renovation 20 years ago was a $30,000 property. The second deal was 9 years ago, was my second hotel, was a $10 million property. The third one was a $40 million deal. I'm currently working on an $80 million deal in Manhattan today as we speak, okay? So appreciate that. So I want to jump right into it and just talk about these 3 different deals and some lessons that I've learned. So that's not the house. I couldn't find the house, so I picked something that looked close to it just to, be transparent with you guys. But I've already explained the deal metrics to you, right? And one of the things that's consistent with this deal, plus the other 2 deals that I'm going to talk about, is you make your money on how you purchase it, right? So the block was selling for 75, I bought it for 32. To me, that's where my profit was made up front. Same thing with the other deals. I'm all about basis, basis, basis. I did my due diligence to understand where were my risk factors. I didn't know anything about construction. I had to have somebody come in there and look at all my mechanicals, plumbing, electric, roof. Tell me what condition is in, what kind of lifespan do I have. So once I understood that my major mechanicals were safe and it was just cosmetic, I felt comfortable going in to proceed with the deal or so. So also, I had a backup plan. If it didn't work and I couldn't sell it, I was going to lease it. I knew what the market rents were, and I knew that the rent payments would cover all of my expenses, all of my debt payments, plus give me profit. So that was my plan B if the plan A didn't work. And then another lesson that I learned, and I learned this the hard way later on, is you got to price it right. So I've priced some properties incorrectly that did not sell and ended up selling it later on at a lower price than what I should have sold it at initially. So fast forward 10 years later. This deal here was in downtown Atlanta, okay? 2009. Remember what happened in 08? You had the crash, right? So, secret, flash alert, the best time to invest in real estate is during bad times, okay? That's when you can find the best deals. So whoever has cash during this time period is king. So when real estate is hot, and everybody and their mothers run into real estate, people that know nothing about real estate and the prices, that's when I get paranoid and I fall back. But this is the time to really jump in. So here I am, young, hungry, survived the downturn. This property was purchased in 2006 for $20 million by someone else. I negotiated to buy it for $5 million, okay? Now, all of my uppity friends in Atlanta told me not to buy this. You know why? Because it was on top of the underground. So if you know where the underground is, it's an area where a lot of young kids are hanging out. At least it used to be a lot of vendors, homeless folks, and all of my friends, they used to hang out at the underground in the 90s, but they are at FEPS, they're at Lenox, they don't go down there. Stay away from that property. That made no sense to me because the resurgence as far as the migration back into the inner cities was already taking place. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, this is 2 blocks from the state capitol, all of the government buildings, the world of Coca-Cola is here, Ritz-Carlton is 3.5 blocks up the street, Centennial Plaza is right around the corner, where the Atlanta Hawks plays is right up the street. I'm like, you guys are crazy. The last guy paid 20, I can buy it for 5. I did like this. I'm like, whoa. Can you fix this for me? Okay, cool. So, purchase the property, right? And trusted my instincts. You can see gems can be found during down times. So what we did was, it was vacant. We went to, Marriott told me no, Hilton told me no. We ended up making it a Comfort Suites. We converted it to a hotel or so. And during that time, I went to the mayor of Atlanta, which was the Kasim Reed administration. I knew nobody in Atlanta at the time. So I say to him, look, I'm the only black hotel owner in downtown Atlanta, okay? I need your help. I need you to clean up the streets in front of me, right? Because all of the major retailers left the underground in the 90s. I'm trying to invest millions of dollars back into this area. Why would they not help me, right? I'm creating jobs. I'm creating a tax base. I'm trying to, rejuvenate a particular area that's been distressed. So I took that risk feeling that they should help me, and they did. I mean, I was on Fox News at one point just screaming like I need help from the city. I had to put a coalition of small business owners together, and we collectively had to go and lobby so they can help us. So eventually we got more police presence, and over time we eventually cleaned it. So about a year later, I wasn't getting much juice out of the renovation system when I was as a Comfort Suites. I went back to Marriott. Remember, Marriott told me no. So I didn't go back to Marriott the same way I went the last time. This time I was smarter. So there was an executive who used to work at Marriott that had all the relationships that left Marriott. I went to him. I said, hey, I want to leverage your relationships, cut you a deal if you can deliver Marriott to me. So he went, used his relationships. At the very least, they have to consider it because they have a lot of respect for this guy. So now that Marriott comes look at the property is looking like this, which is a lot different than what it looked before. And then Marriott is seeing the neighborhood. It wasn't there, but they're seeing a difference. And it's, because the city was working with me. So then Marriott said, okay, that was the game changer. So the property went from being valued about 10 million up to like 18 million overnight, just by putting a Marriott flag on it. So just by putting a Marriott flag on it, I appreciate it. So then I wasn't even trying to sell the building. Now I knew that at some point somebody would buy the underground. I knew that would have to get redeveloped. I also knew that the Mercedes-Benz Stadium was coming, right? So in my brain, and my partners, we said, well, we can just sit on this and hold it. But if somebody made me an offer where I can triple my equity, and I can take that money and go buy 3, 4 more hotels, I understand that there's more meat on the bone, but you know what? I left that meat for the next guy, took the money, and I went out and bought 3 more hotels, which I don't regret doing, right? So we exited out of that property. And then recently, I'm staying at a Westin, and ironically, we bought the Westin at the BWI airport last year. 260 keys, 13,000 square feet of meeting space. Now, let me tell you about this deal. This deal was built in 2008. So the builder was unfortunate. He spent $70 million when he built this. I bought it for $35 million, okay? And I put $6 million into it, so we're all in for $41 million, okay? At the time, Marriott purchased Starwood, right? Marriott has 100+ million rewards members. That's really the power of us, partnering with the brands, is their reservation system. So I realized that when you put the Starwood properties on the Marriott system and introduce these Starwood properties to these 100+ million Marriott rewards people, I saw that as value add. This Westin was losing to a Holiday Inn. Which one of you would stay at a Holiday Inn or a Westin? None of you, right? So I also understood that there was value there and it was being mismanaged. So then, so all of these were just metrics. We just finished our renovation. We just put out a press release literally yesterday of the newly renovated Westin Hotel. We still own this asset, but we're meeting all of our projections. And as you can see, the consistency is the basis. I'm always about buying something that's broken, that is undervalued when the time where I buy it, and throughout any bad market conditions, just gives us the ability to just weather bad times or so. And then another thing that I've learned, one of the hotel deals that I didn't show you, my first hotel was a $3 million deal. Do you realize that the $3 million deal was just as much work as the $40 million deal? There is really no difference when you're in the commercial space. So I say to myself, well, why am I going to just go to all this extreme and beat myself up when it's the same level of work and same level of complexity? So at one point, I was sitting in your seat and I seen people on stage talking about these big numbers at a conference that's devoted to Black people owning hotels, and I was blown away. But now I understand how to finance these deals and how to structure them. And the $40, $50, $100 million, I'm no longer intimidated by them because it doesn't mean that I need to have $40, $50 million of my own money. So that's a whole nother conversation that we can have. Boom. So I think I did good with time, met my 20 minutes. So I want to open it up for Q&A at this point. So that was a lot that I had to condense in a real short period of time. I could talk for another 45 minutes, but this is the format.
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you so much for the presentation. It's very informative.
Thank you.
I'm curious, Marriott recently came out pretty publicly against Airbnb and some of the short-term space. I was curious if you have any thoughts on how short-term and long-term in the hospitality space are playing together. And do you see that impacting your model at all, being that you're so heavily involved in the hotels?
As far as the effect on Airbnb?
Correct, because they're saying some top-tier markets, it drives down prices for hotels, Marriott recently purchased a couple of businesses for, a couple $100 million. I was just curious on your thoughts in that space.
So it's an interesting question, and you look at what Uber has done to the taxi industry, and obviously it appears that the Airbnb is the disruptor in our industry or so. But this is one of the things that I realized. Airbnb is in the lodging business. We're in the hospitality business, and that's a major difference. You're not going to get hospitality and service at an Airbnb, so that's the one major distinction. I'm also seeing major growth in Airbnb, but I'm not seeing that at the detriment of the hospitality markets. Some markets, New York City has been hurt, a little bit with rate. New York City still has very strong occupancy, but I have seen some of the rates. I'm in Washington, D.C. I don't know if I told you guys, that's where I'm based or so. So we're not seeing major effects on it today. Because if you're, my strategy is to be where businesses need to be. So for example, most of you who have to be here for this convention, maybe some of you are staying in Airbnb, but for the most part, if, BE is not staying at Airbnb. BE needs meeting space, they need food, they need catering, they need services or so. So we just like to be in places where corporate presence is located. And so I think Airbnb is going to continue to do this, but it doesn't fear me as far as our investment strategy as we continue to invest. Thank you. Doesn't scare me, sorry.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well. How you doing?
I have the same strategy as you do when it comes to real estate. I just recently, maybe back in 2017, purchased a property that went through a fire, purchased the property for $30,000. I invested initially $15,000 in it to get an apartment side of the property up and running and rented that side out. And then I started fixing the house part of it, and it was going to cost me about $70 to do it. And had some issues with the contractor. Well, not contractors, people like you say, go get who you can get to fix the property. But I got taken for like about $20,000 in money from that particular person. I need to know how to better structure my contracts with the people that are going to do the work. I also wanted to know about how to divide a property, because some property, like this particular property, I found out after I fixed one apartment that this particular property can have up to 12 units on it. And I'm trying to figure out how can I get to 12 units on it now that I know that it's there. Or should I just, like you said, leave some meat on the bone, fix the bottom half, sell it, and get what I can get and keep it moving? I expect to sell it for about $250, maybe $300.
Yeah, I don't know all of your metrics in order to answer that last part as far as what you should do. But to answer one of your questions, one of the ways in which we create profit in property is through creating more density. You just asked, could you get 12 units? That's a local municipality zoning and code issue. So if there's some way you can convince whatever you could do by right, and if you're trying to get more density so you could do more, that's a great way, but you'd have to work through some land use attorney that understands your local codes or so to try to help you do that. As far as the contractor question, one of the things that I've experienced is when I can't deal with those kind of guys anymore that I used to deal with back in the day, Now I really deal with way more professional contractors, and it makes my life a lot easier. Even though I'm paying more, it saves me in time, headache, and everything. So I have graduated from just trying to think about cheap labor, because overall it actually ended up costing me more. If I have to fire 3 guys and keep bringing in new guys, I'm done with that, So I actually would just try to look for more competent, just budget to pay a little bit more for someone that's licensed and bonded, and your experience would just be a whole lot better. You'll pay a little bit more up front, but I think it'll save you in the long run.
Hey, I enjoyed the whole thing, the
Thank
speech
you.
that you gave. I have like a 16-unit apartment building. It's like this elderly gentleman that has it. It's boarded up, but it's in a good area, and he wants about $300 for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to see, and it need work too. So,
okay.
But I can get about $650 for each unit. How would you go about assessing that? Like, would you do the capitalization rate thing, or would you do like that with 50% rule, or how would you?
He wants $300,000 for the building.
That's what he's starting at. I could probably talk him down a little bit, but that's what he has it. He tells me every time I call him, he's like, I need at least 300. One of them.
Right. And you said you can get 650 in rents?
I could, yes. He's got
I mean,
about,
that's just, yeah,
he's
you
got
just
about
gotta,
3
you
units.
gotta run your numbers. I mean, you gotta see at buying it for 300,000, how much debt you can get on that 300, how much equity cash you're gonna put out of your pocket. You take whatever equity you're gonna put out, you factor in how much you're paying in debt service, like what are your monthly payments are gonna be. You gotta factor in some repair monies, you gotta factor in some vacancies. Once you put all that stuff in, you just look at what kind of percentage return you're getting on your investment. So if you're putting out $100,000 and you can make $10,000 a year based on all your rents, that's a 10% return. Ask yourself, is 10% enough? Second thing is what are the comps selling for? If the building he wants for 300, try to find other comparable properties. Speak to a realtor that can provide you with comps. And if you're buying it, if the rest of the neighborhood is selling for 400,000 or 500,000, that's fine. But if the rest of the neighborhood is selling for 200, you got some negotiation to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
So what do you suggest is the first financial step in this journey? You know, I've heard things of like you should get a loan or you should come up front with cash or you should like, what do you think is like the most useful first step financially to start investing?
I think, and this is going to be maybe a little bit challenging. I think there's many ways to skin a cat. I think if you find a deal, and if you can lock up a deal, it makes it a lot easier to find the cash.
Okay.
Because, you know, you may not have the experience, but the first thing you should do is probably, if you have the deal and you have control, you have the golden egg. So now you can come to someone else who has the experience and bring them in as a partner. They can help you get financing, right?
Okay.
And now you can go out and try to raise money, you know, because you have someone on the team that can execute, you have control of the deal, the money will follow you at that point. So you don't have to have a bunch of money if you can find a deal and somehow find a way to get it locked or tie it up,
Okay.
have it under contract.
Okay.
So that's where I would suggest starting.
Okay. Thank you.
So this kind of piggybacks off of what you were just saying with partners. I have a few million dollars in real estate now, but I'm trying to figure out how I can get more partners together to go to do the $20 million deals. How do you find those guys that you say, okay, how do you qualify who you're trying to get to
Gotcha.
get into the partnerships?
Okay. You're in a forum right now where you can find those people, okay? So my first introduction into hotels was basically sitting in a seat like that, listening to guys on the stage talk about deals. And basically, I was just networking like crazy just amongst the audience, and I found, hey, you know, I have some money, I'm trying to invest in hotels, I'm trying to do this, and I just put together a team. So just being extremely assertive, networking with people, but don't just get people cards and things, follow up with people. Okay, follow up with them, meet with them for coffee, pick people's brains. I mean, that's where your hunger and your assertiveness just has to come in that phase right there. It will all come together because everything that I've done at the end of the day has been based on relationships, deals that I've gotten, people that I've met, the way I've capitalized deals. And most of the people that have invested with me, I didn't know them before I got into this business. I'm just meeting them. I'm sure I may meet people today that may invest in our next deal. That's how you do it.
So I'm the last question here.
Okay.
I'm Tip Jones. So 30,000 square foot old church, about 80 years old,
Okay.
complete disrepair, in an opportunity zone. They want $1.7 million for it, right?
Okay.
I don't have $1.7 million, but you just told me I don't need $1.7 million in my pocket.
That's
However, I don't know so what are the resources? So it piggybacks on the last two questions. Where are the resources? If you didn't need the $40 or $50 million in your pocket, just the same way you didn't need the $3 million, how do you get started? Where is the money? And for partners, I wouldn't even know what to expect from the partner to pen the deal. So I don't get that part. It's like a big black hole there. I'm not getting
Okay,
clear
so
on.
I have a person right now that this deal I talked about in Manhattan, this person has no money, zero, and this is an $80 million deal, okay? This person came to me because I have the expertise. So I'm gonna tell you the story and hopefully it helps you with your question.
Okay.
So the way this person, he came to me and said, look, I don't have the expertise, I can't qualify everything, let's cut a deal. So, yeah, I gave him some of the economics as far as fees, but I'm the controlling partner. You're gonna have to give up a lot, okay? But at the end of the day, you're giving up most of the economics, but you're getting to put that on your track record, if this is what you're trying to do. So this guy who had no money later on can say, I did an $80 million deal, because he is gonna be on a partnership. So it's gonna make it a lot easier for that person, even though all the economics came to me, but that's what you have to do when you have no money. But
Yeah.
he's still gonna have some economics. So you have to give up a lot. to get into the deal, first and foremost. And again, the deal will and the people behind it, depending on who you bring in, can drive the money. You know, you think about the 1.7 million, what kind of property? You said it's a church?
It's an old
And what do you
church.
want it to be? An apartment building?
Yeah, mixed
Let's
use.
just say you want to make it apartments or so.
Yeah.
Maybe there's 75% money out there, you know, for something like that, 70% money. So you got to think then you need 30% of that 1.7, but you have to factor in how much you need to put into it to also
million.
repair it. So that 1.7 could be 2.5, you know? So maybe you need $750,000 at the end of the day. You know, I'm just factoring 30% of 2.5 million, you know? So you think that's the equity that you need, and how can you raise it, and what are you willing to give up? And once you have the team in place, you can go out and get the finance. You can get because that person is going to have to sign on a loan, not you. Because you're going to say, I don't have any money, I don't have the balance sheet to sign. So that person is taking all the risks, and like I just said, you're just going to have to give them 80, 90% of the economics, but just be in the deal. Because you're not putting up anything.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
No problem. Wrap up. That's what the sign says. Yes. Yes, we purchased it for 5, and we put in about another 5, and then we sold it for like 20. I'm just telling you the economics. Yep. Yep.
Another, well, it's not really a question. I already know, like, there's an economic crash approaching. So do you hear anything in the streets when it started? Do you hear anything yet?
There's nothing, I'm getting a wrap-up sign. There's nothing I'm seeing right now. I'm not seeing I don't see the lending community being irresponsible. The interest rates are still holding low. There's no signs of it that I'm seeing right now. So, but I'm not a genie. It could happen. Okay. So I got the wrap-up sign. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. I appreciate it, spending time with you. Appreciate that. Yeah.